And welcome, ladies and gents. Mr. Callan here to help you with Unit 5, Lesson 12, Determining Percent of Change. This is building off of the lesson directly before spring break. Goal is to determine the increase or decrease of a quantity as a percent. Many of us chose to draw, but our goal ultimately today is to find out what percent of change happens. Now remember, we've already talked percent increase and decrease, examples of those, marking things up or marking things down at a store. We're basically just taking today and saying, hey, what's the percent of change? If a plant grows from 20 to 25, that's going to increase from 20 to 25. 20 was the 100%. And our goal is find that percent of change in height. Now, we've already done activity 1 in class. I'm going to skip to activity 2. Speaking of skipping, we chose to skip this, but let's go ahead and do it now. With the key questions down below, how are these similar? How are they different? In fact, I'm going to encourage you to pause, go ahead and read this right now, and come on back when you are ready. All right, so here we go. I'm going to start with the diagram. We have an original quantity of 48, and that quantity changes. It goes down to 30. We don't know what percent it goes down to, nor do we know what percent it finishes off at, but that is our goal, to find the percent that it decreases. Now, there are two different methods to this. In fact, I would ask you again, why don't you pause, come on back after you've read through number 2, and then we'll talk through it together. So I know many of us are proportion lovers out there. We would have set up what percent versus 100, 30 versus 48. Please notice Kieran's method does have the 30 versus 48. They just use the expression method instead of the proportion method. Now, in so doing, Kieran finds 62.5% is the relationship of 30 to 48, but it doesn't ask for that. It asks us what is the percent of change. So while the Kieran's first step is to find that percent, the second step is to actually subtract that from 100 and find a 37.5% decrease. All right, let's take a look at Tyler's method now. I'm going to use a different color. Interesting that Tyler, his first step is to start by finding the change. He finds 18, and then he's going to use that 18 and set up a relationship, and immediately he finds the same answer of 37.5% decrease. Okay, so again, I would ask you pause, think about how they're similar, think about how they're different. Come on back when you're ready. All right, how are they similar? A couple things I noticed. Both set up relationships of part versus whole. Now their parts are different, but the wholes are the same. I wonder if you noticed that the whole is 48 for the first problem and the second problem. Also, both use subtraction. But how are they different, ladies and gents? Well, the very first method uses subtraction at the end. Find the percent and then subtract it from 100, and that will tell you the percent of increase or decrease. However, the second method uses subtraction at the beginning. Find the part that it changes and then compare the change versus the original. But just to repeat myself, they both use that original number 48 in their relationships. So really interesting that two different methods leading us to the same destination. You guys have heard me say that quite a bit. Pause if you need, rewind, rewatch. Meanwhile, I'm going to redo activity 3. We're going to do a few of the problems for you because as you get into your homework, every homework problem I want you to look at, I want you to say, okay, is this more like card number 4? Is it more like card number 1? Is it more like card number 3? I might even try to use different colors. So card number 4, if I could show the visual, 100% gave us a 75%. Actually, it told us it went down 25%, which told us 75% was 12, and it did not give us the original amount. That is our goal. That's what we want to find. Going ahead and set up the proportions, where 75 per 100 And the 75, notice, corresponds to the 12. So 12, oh, we don't know the original amount. Now at this point, you can go straight into cross products and solve, or you could reduce. And the power of reducing, folks, is now 3 times 4 is 12, so 4 times 4 is 16. Even if you used your cross products and you had 1200 is equal to 75 times x, and you divided both sides by 75, you'll get the same answer. Ultimately, what we're going to find, I believe it was $16, whatever that situation was. All right, so that is a type of problem where we're asked to find the original value. Now let me go ahead into a type of problem where we're asked to find the new. Again, I'm going to show the visual because it helps a bunch of us. This problem, 12 was the original amount. I believe it was 12 gallons. It had a very large increase of 50% increase, which means that in the end, we're at 150%. But the question ultimately was asking how much was it this year, or I don't remember the exact wording. So again, some of you use the expression method, the rest of us going into proportions, or we can compare 150% to 100. 12 corresponds with the 100, folks. So 12 is the original value, and we want to find the new value. Go straight into your cross products if you wish, but many of us will choose to reduce that. And it reduces quite nicely. Meanwhile, 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 6 is 18. I think it was 18 gallons, which seems like a reasonable answer. If we start at 12, we add half of 12, which is 6. Yep, 50% of that would be 6. Add 12 and 6, that verifies. That, folks, is a type of problem. That was, by the way, if you were here with us, that was card 1. Type of problem where you're asked to find the new amount. Let's wrap up one more kind. And to no one's surprise, this is where we're heading with percent of change. And I'm going to do card 3, but that's not really important. For the visual, we know that a certain, I think it was a school, I'm not sure, 1200, that was the original amount. It decreased quite a bit. In fact, by the time it decreased to 1080. Now, my picture might not be great, but ultimately, this is what we're asked to find. How much, what percent did it decrease? Furthermore, we don't know what that is either, but we can use our proportional reasoning to find it. In fact, I'm going to write p% versus 100, and I'm going to compare what corresponds with 100 now. The original amount was 1200, and the part that we don't, that changed, it goes down to 1080, excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and use our cross products here, where the cross product, yes, I could have reduced those two, but some people don't like to reduce. Go straight into the cross products. The product of 1200 and P is equal to the product of 1080 and 100, which would be 2 more zeros, 100,000. Divide both sides by 1200. In so doing, you'll find 90%. At this point, you're saying 90%, it didn't go down. Oh, wait a second. Okay, hold on. This was 90%. So next step, 100% is the starting quantity, went down to 90%. What was the change? And that is our answer, ladies and gents. It's going to be a 10% decrease. Now, of course, you could have done that a different way. You could have subtracted right away. You could have said, look, the change was 120 students. And so if we compared 120 students to the original amount and found the percent versus 100, if you did all of that, that would get you straight to the 10% decrease, the same answer, of course. Remember, you can choose to subtract at the beginning, 1200 minus 1080 to find that, and then use that as your portion. Or you can subtract at the end 100% minus whatever and find out how much that percentage increases or decreases. So folks, every homework problem you go through tonight, you can ask yourself, is it more like the blue problem where we're asked to find the original value? Let me get my highlighter out here. Is it more like the green problem where we're asked to find the new value? Or is it more like the red problem where ultimately what they want us to find is the percent of decrease or the percent of increase, the percent of change? Now I'm going to leave it at that. Go ahead, you can read through this. Again, many of you won't like the expression method as much as the proportion method, but the point is, remember, if you're trying to find a percent of change, don't forget to subtract, whether it's 100% minus 90%, like with the problem that we just did, or if you have the final percent, subtract 100%, this one would have been a change of 200%. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I'll be ready for questions that you have. Go on into the homework assignment. That would be the textbook page, whatever page that was, 641, 642, as well as the worksheet, ladies and gents. Take care, do well. Let's grow. See you.